This podcast is brought to you by iPlayHockey.ca. iPlay is the leading hockey insurance provider to coaches, camp instructors, spring and summer hockey leagues, and tournaments across Canada. If you need insurance for hockey, iPlay has you covered. iPlay also provides hockey players and coaches with a wide range of free tools, drills, and skills in their drill vault to enhance on-ice performance, and they provide crucial off-ice knowledge as well. So if you need insurance for a hockey team, league, or camp, or if you just want to teach your kids some new drills, head on over to iPlayHockey.ca and check out their new website.
Here we go, fellas. Part 2 of our World Junior preview show ahead of Boxing Day. That's, of course, when the tournament starts in Minneapolis. Looking forward to it. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne with you here for episode 261. 260. And again, thank you for listening to everyone who's listened to that already. That was part 1, talking about the teams and players to watch in Group A. This is Group B, which includes Team Canada, of course. And we know you're eagerly awaiting us to talk about Team Canada. We will get to them at the end. We are going to start with the Finns here in Group B to kick off part 2. Here we go. Case, your player to watch for the Finns. Take it away.
All right. This is the furthest thing from a deep cut, but I am going to take Captain Finland, and that's Aaron Kiviharju, who was the captain for the silver medal winning team last year, captain of the U18 team the year before that, and captain of the U16 team the year before that. He led the team in ice time last year. I expect the same thing this time around. This is the guy we were talking about who went 4th round to the Minnesota Wild in the 2024 draft. And I expect that since then, his stock has risen, especially within the Minnesota group. 104 Liga games under his belt already, 84 international caps. This is about as experienced as a World Junior player can get in Kiviharju. He's going to play all situations, and most importantly, for what I call the Islanders of the World Juniors, or maybe the early 2000s Devils of the World Juniors, Finland. He's a breakout expert, and you need that when you play for a team like that. You need a good first passer, someone who's going to get you out of the zone as you box up, you finally get the puck, you get possession, you get it to him, we move up ice, and our okay forwards go to work. They always do well. So I'm not trashing Finland at all here, but it's the way they play the game. It's boxy, it's defensive, and then they kind of pot a goal here and a pot a goal there, but it's not flashy by any means. And I think Kiviharju, just get used to hearing that name because he's going to log a ton of minutes, and I think will likely be a top 3 player in the tournament for Finland.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, Case. I love this pick. Number one thing I wanted to bring up that you mentioned that I'm glad you did because I wanted to talk about it is just all of the experience that this guy has playing in the league. Going back to 2022 as a young player, like he is a veteran in that league, which is crazy to say because he's still playing at the World Juniors, but an absolute veteran. And like, that's exactly what you need from your top defenseman at this tournament. And oh, look, here we go. The Minnesota Wild have picked this kid and add him to the list of great picks that the Minnesota Wild have made over the past 5 years. Like, this team is drafting extremely good players left, right, and center, whether it's in the early rounds or the late rounds. So good for them. They are just racking up the prospects, and yeah, they've got themselves a good little team over there in Minnesota. So Kiviharju will be relied on quite a bit for this team. And yeah, it's funny. We were talking in the previous episode about the kind of type of player that, you know, you think of when you think of a Finnish player, and you summed it up perfectly, Case. It's kind of a pesky, defensive, chip away, grind you down, get a goal, and then play defense. Like, that's what we can expect from this Finnish team. And Kiviharju is going to be kind of manning the point and driving some of the offense from back there.
Love the kid's attitude as well. I think that he loves being doubted, you know, and of course he was so highly thought of and touted and ranked at one point in time for that 2024 draft, fell all the way to the 4th round. Still can't believe that happened. Crazy. And of course, this isn't the exact quote, just verbatim, but when Bill Guerin selected him for the Minnesota Wild, he said something along the lines of like, you just made the best decision, like you won't regret this, that sort of thing. Again, that's verbatim, but I think this kid just has that chip on his shoulder, and he is going to be a force on this blue line for the Finns, and we could maybe see him in the National Hockey League sooner rather than later.
For sure. To add to that, pretty good back end that they've got in Minnesota. So might be a bit of a log jam. Might have to play some American League games before that, but who knows? Good pick, Case. That's an obvious one.
Yep.
We had to bring him up. The player that I'm going to be watching on Team Finland at this tournament is, let me double check. Correct. The son of Saku Koivu. It's Atos Koivu, if that's how you pronounce the first name. And also makes total sense that he was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens in the third round in 2024. This is a player that I think all Habs fans are going to be having their eye on just because of how important his father was to their franchise for so long. This is a player also who didn't make the team last year. And despite playing games in the Liga, like he played 32 games in the Liga last year, had 8 points, which, isn't blowing the doors off by any means in terms of production. It's a little bit worrying that his production hasn't increased this year, another year after being drafted. He has just 7 points in 30 games in the Liga. It is a difficult league. It's notoriously a low-scoring league as well. It's tough to put up points, especially as a young player. Who knows the type of usage he's getting as well on TPS. But yeah, this is a player that I think, especially if you're a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, you are going to have your eyes locked on this guy for everything that his dad meant to this team. So you hope that Atos here can be at least 50% of what his dad was, and if he could do that, he'd be a hell of an NHL player.
He's like, Saku is a cult favorite.
Yes,
in Montreal. I mean, you have Newfies that name their dog after him. Like, he's that kind of guy. So
that's right.
You have to draft him. I mean, luckily Montreal was able to wait until the third round to draft him. But if he has the pedigree of not only Saku, but also his uncle, Minnesota Wild, Mikko Koivu, tournament in Minnesota. I had to bring up the connection because we always bring up the connections and I beat Harper to it. Anyways, you have that pedigree. Eventually it's gonna kick in and his production will get better. I think he's kind of in that situation of players that you often see in Finland where they're too good for the U20 Finnish league, but can't quite get the production going in the Liga because it is a tough league. So, I think it's only a matter of time for him. He's pretty highly touted going into this tournament. A lot of people talking about him. So definitely a player to bring up as a guy to watch. This podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek, the absolute best ticket app out there. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals to tickets at your favorite sporting event. SeatGeek does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know whether you're getting a good or a bad deal. Last time I got tickets to see the Devils play, I first saw red tickets. I waited it out, monitored the price in-app, and once I saw green, I pulled the trigger. SeatGeek makes it that easy. And here's the best part. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Click the link in our description to download the app and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
I will say this too, just before you jump in, Harper, does fit that sort of prototype as a two-way responsible player that a lot of Finns are. Take a Barkov. That's the model, right? Like that's what you're trying to model your game after. And even his dad, right? Like a two-way responsible player, but has a very heavy shot. So look out for that. That's kind of his calling card on top of the two-way play.
Yeah, and we know that the Buffalo Sabres won't be lending Konsta Helenius to Team Finland for this tournament. So that means that guys like Atos Koivu are going to have to step up in that vacancy. And, again, just one of those prototypical Finnish forwards, just a pain in the ass to play against. plays that hard blue collar kind of game. I think with this country at this tournament every year, it's that next man up mentality. And I expect Koivu to have a great tournament. We're always keeping an eye on guys that, like, okay, this person's their dad and he was such a great player. And so we're keeping an eye on Koivu, and there's a player on Team Canada that we'll get to later, and his dad's a household name as well.
Harp, I'm glad you brought up Consta Helenius before we move on to your pick here, because I just thought it was shocking that they didn't release him for this tournament. And like, does Pegula care more about the Rochester Americans than the Buffalo Sabres? Was it his choice to not let him go to this tournament? What is the point? There's guys in the NHL that are getting released for this, and you're holding on to him. Are they going to make a bunch of trades here and he's going to be playing in Buffalo next week? What is this?
Was there not a quote that came out about this?
I believe, or
I think Kekalainen said something to the effect of he's going to be a Sabre very soon because he's playing in the American League right now.
Yeah.
Has some pretty good numbers.
Yes.
But said something to the effect of he's going to be a Sabre sooner rather than later. And that's sort of an explanation for why they're not letting him go. But
yeah,
I'm with Casey here. I'm glad that you kind of caught that and we're talking about this because this is something that has been on my mind all week since that quote came out.
I was surprised as well. And absolutely. I mean, that has to be it. He's got to be coming up soon. Or he's staying in Rochester to help them with a playoff run, but we're not even close to that point yet. So if you're just going to keep him in Rochester, why not release him and be a part of this tournament? So I hope that that's the case, that he is coming up to Buffalo very soon. He certainly deserves it, but man, oh man, he could be really huge for this Finnish team once again and absolutely tear it up in this tournament if he was there. I was just as surprised as you guys were that he's not being lent to Finland for the tournament.
If I'm Helenius and I have a point per game in the American League, last year I had the upset of losing in the gold medal game in the World Juniors, and I have another chance. If the statement is we're not releasing him, it needs to be followed up with, and he was just called up to the National Hockey League, because I would be losing my mind not getting another shot at this when I am of age and playing in the AHL, not the NHL. So I have to imagine that he's being called up like this week or next week, because that would frustrate me.
Yeah, and I mean, he's, not to go on too much about Buffalo, but he's kind of the one that we're waiting on to get called up to the Sabres. We've seen Ostlund up. He's a mainstay now with the team. Roseanne as well. Helenius is kind of the last guy, and who probably will end up being the best of all three. So that better be the case. Would make a lot of sense too. They have some money that they need to move out if they're going to take another run at re-signing Alex Tuch. So you could move out a Jordan Greenway, someone who makes, maybe a little too much money, and call up a guy like Helenius on his entry-level deal. But that better be happening if he's not with these guys. So,
but even so, and just to wrap this up, we don't have to go on too long about a player who's not even on this team we're talking about here. But just to wrap it up, like, why? Like, is it worth it to keep a player on your NHL team? Like, is he moving the needle for the Buffalo Sabres as a rookie who has never played an NHL game? Like, is he going to move the needle and get the Sabres into the playoffs if he plays these extra, few games? No, probably not, right? Like, of course, he's a good player. He's a talented player, but let's be real. He's playing in the American League for a reason right now. He's developing. He's a young player. He's not going to make the biggest impact at the NHL level. Why not release him? It makes no sense to me. You see players who are currently playing in the NHL who have been released to play at the World Juniors. Michael Misa is the first guy who comes to mind. So to me, it doesn't make much sense.
I will say there are a few other cases of this. Like, Sam Dickinson is not the best defenseman on the San Jose Sharks. He is starting to play more and starting to get his feet more wet at the NHL level with San Jose. I was kind of surprised that they didn't send him to to Team Canada. So,
But even for
Buffalo
him,
doing this, not the only ones.
A team like San Jose is not trying to make the playoffs. And he is playing, and they have gotten a more trust with Dickinson. Whereas Buffalo, it kind of seems like, 6 games in a row, maybe we're trying to make the playoffs. So is bringing up a rookie who we're keeping out of the World Juniors the right choice? I don't know. They're on a roll right now.
It is very interesting. And again, other than injuries, which there aren't many, like they are getting a lot healthier, unless they're trying to move somebody out to create more space to re-sign an Alex Tuck and so on and so forth. And maybe they see Hellenius making an impact like Noah Ostlund has. It is strange. I was surprised. Anyway.
Six in a row, case. I think we've heard that before.
Yeah, I've seen this movie.
Just be happy for me.
No.
Never.
Not when they beat my team and you say that.
Yeah, not when the Leafs are tanking and about to blow it up. 5 seconds from blowing it up. So.
Gosh.
All right, back to the World Juniors.
Yes.
All right.
Finland. All right. Yes. Emil Hemming is my player to watch. One of a couple of Dallas Stars prospects on this Finnish roster. And so, again, talking about one of those forwards who can kind of replace the production of a Hellenius. He's got a hard shot, offensively gifted, has a little bit of experience with Texas, very good production in the Ontario League with Barrie, 28 points in 17 games, 6'2" frame. We talk about the Minnesota Wild and their drafting, finding those hidden gems in the later rounds. I mean, look no further than the Dallas Stars in that regard as well. This kid was picked 29th in 2024 and certainly could be yet another late round steal for the Dallas Stars. So going with 19-year-old Emil Hemming, who should be one of the go-to guys up front for this Finnish roster.
The rich get richer with this draft pick in Dallas. And, a Finnish player going to Dallas?
Yeah,
talk about seeing that movie before. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be their best forward. I think it's without a doubt, and they're going to look to him. You look at those OHL numbers; that's ridiculous. You get five games in the AHL, no points. Well, how about 28 points in 17 games in the OHL? Maybe there's somewhere else this guy should be. He's good. He's going to be their guy. Great shot. As you mentioned, not much else to say here. Like, he's going to be the kind of talk about a guy who will look like man amongst boys. I think Hemming is that as well.
Mm-hmm. Not much to add. Just will say on Hemming that, we talk a lot, and we have this episode and last episode at the World Juniors. We talk a lot about players who have that experience against men. Well, yeah, Hemming's only played a handful of games in the American League. However, there is something to be said about being an overager and just going back to the OHL and dominating. And that is what he's doing right now at 19 years old, dominating the OHL. And I think there's value in that too, because especially as an offensive player, that really builds your confidence. Getting puck touches every single shift, playing 20 plus minutes a night and getting 2 points a game. Like, builds your confidence, especially for an offensive player. So there's something to be said about that as well.
Yeah, totally. All right, who have we got next here?
Next up, we're going to go Czechia.
Czechia, okay. Czechia case.
All right. I've got one guy on my eyes, and it's after last tournament, and that's Peter Sikora. And for more than one reason. Firstly, because of his skill set and his skill level. He was a standout player for them last year, winning bronze and being named a top 3 player of the tournament for Czechia. He was all over the puck and constantly in the play, put up 4 goals and 3 assists in the tournament, and was just relentless on the forecheck, which leads me to my second point on him, and that's how he plays with an edge. last year he's a bit of a pest, and that's not something you really see in the World Juniors very often. But I just want to recall that Czechia Canada game where there was just a ton of penalties. There was a game misconduct, which was surrounding Sikora, where he got kneed by Bodwin, and then that resulted in a game misconduct, which was detrimental to Canada. The fans booed him because they thought it was a dive on the play and it was borderline, and he had previously been called for a dive in the tournament. So there's a lot of people that were upset with what happened there. But the fact that this guy is such a dynamic and gritty player in the World Juniors, as well as plays with that edge, and in a tournament where we've seen that if you take penalties, you're going to lose. And that's what happened to Canada against Czechia. So they play first game, Boxing Day. I'm really curious to see how that will go. I don't want to fully take away that he's a pest and that he's a pesky player, because he's very talented as well and got drafted late in really kind of a standout player in the whole tournament, not just for Czechia last year.
BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video. The new year is a blank space for you to write a new story. BetterHelp makes it more convenient to get you started. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy more comfortable and convenient. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Your next chapter starts today. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp online therapy at betterhelp.com/boysinthebooth in paid partnership with BetterHelp.
I agree. I think you're right to point out the fact that he's a pest, but you're also right to point out that he's going to be one of their best players this year. And maybe not the most talented, because there are some other very talented players on this team, but one of the most consistent and relied on guys, because that's what he was last year. So it's a good pick, Case. You had to bring him up. He was so important last year, and he will be again this year.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Case, just like look at another organization that drafts well and develops really well, and that's the Washington Capitals. And Sikora, the way I would describe him, he's a rat in the best way. Like, he kind of reminds me of a guy like Zach Benson, just a smaller, really skilled player who's just always in the mix. Great speed and skill, but winning puck battles, like creative little puck plays to, get it to teammates or get it out of the zone. We obviously saw Sikora in person in Brockville, during that exhibition game against Latvia. He was one of the most notable players too, and then certainly became public enemy number one in Ottawa against Team Canada. But definitely one of their go-to guys, and they're a different looking team without him up front, just because of the way he plays. Just a dog on the puck always, and again, kind of reminds me of the way Zach Benson plays in Buffalo.
For sure, it's a good comparison.
His quote in November: "I hope they boo again," when asked about this.
That's exactly what you want to hear. That's exactly what you want to hear. Good for him, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. For me, when I was looking at this team on paper, I just looked at the size of some of these players. Like, they have 4 defensemen who are 6'5" or above, 5 forwards who are 6'3" or above, on top of some of the, quote unquote smaller player or average size players who play, above their weight class, like a Sikora. I think this team is going to be impossible to play against. I think they're going to be annoying. They're going to be huge, and they're going to be physical. So that was the first thing I noticed. But I wanted to pick a player to watch because I'm interested to see where he fits into all of this. I wanted to pick Adam Benek, or Benak, however you want to pronounce the name. He has had a fantastic season in the OHL this year, and he's an undersized player. He's just 5'8", 163 pounds, and once again, Minnesota Wild draft pick. I feel like it's the green teams out west that keep coming up. It's Minnesota and Dallas, just 2 teams who keep picking great players. He was a 4th rounder in just this past draft in 2025. And look at some of these numbers, guys. Like, look at his numbers for Brantford in the OHL. He has 43 points in 26 games. He's absolutely tearing it up. Coming out of the USHL last year, where he was just over a point per game, moves into the O and is absolutely dominant. So this is, I believe, his first tournament, and I'm interested to see what he can do, especially given the fact that he's one of the smaller players, if not the smallest player on the team, surrounded by a bunch of big mutants out there who can protect him. So I'm interested to see what Banak can do.
Go ahead and scroll down on that page a little bit further to the totals per league. Something I want to point out, you might have went past it. Yeah, you were just at it.
Oh, there we
sorry.
go. Yep.
You're on it. The record in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup for scoring.
Is that really?
Yeah. I think
I did not know
combined, like, he has the point record for Hlinka Gretzky. So, I mean, you talk about being important for Czechia, and you said he hasn't played in the World Juniors, the U20 World Juniors. Well, he's got experience with this team, and he has a lot of experience with U18, and puts up a ton of points in basically every league he's ever played in. So, yeah, definitely a guy to watch on this team.
Yeah, I also wanted to pull up this Brantford Bulldogs team because they are absolutely stacked. Like, I don't know if you guys have taken a look at this team recently, but Jake O'Brien at the top with 47 points in 28 games, like, absolutely stacked. And then just look at the list of drafted players. Adam Juracek, obviously on this team. Haven't talked about him yet, but he'll be an important defenseman. Ben Danford, another guy, he's on Team Canada and a Maple Leafs pick. Jet Luchenko, NHL experience, 8 points in 6 games. Like, this team is loaded. So, yeah, Banak, who knows how much of that production is driven by himself or just being a bit of a passenger on a fantastic team. But point is, you have to produce. He is in the situation that he's in, and you can't take anything away from him. So he's on a loaded team, but he's going to be really important here.
No O'Brien or Van Acker for Team Canada. Both cuts.
That's right.
For the Canadians. And Brantford, I think, has only lost like a handful of games this year.
It's
so
been
far.
Climbing. I think when I checked, I think they had 5 losses and 5 overtime losses. But
yeah,
it's they're third in the OHL right now, which is, you know, they're having an incredible season, and it makes sense given the lineup that I just showed on the screen there. Like, they have some weapons.
Zach Hyman's brother, a part of the gang that runs that organization as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's Banak in terms of all-time point leader in a Hlinka Gretzky Cup. He is the leader with 21 points in 10 games. Second is 15 points in 8 games, and that's Magnus Pyarvi. So, I mean, that's quite a stat right there.
Interesting. That is. Wow. Did not know that.
When you talk about the guys that have played in that tournament.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, the best players year over year, right? The best young players year over year. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Banak, terrific pick. He should be one of the go-to guys for Czechia. I'm going to go with some low-hanging fruit here and take Radim Murka. Shocker. Buffalo Sabres first rounder. One of those just gigantic defensemen that they have on their blue line. Physical, not particularly punishing by any means, but uses his size and his body very well. Is able to move the puck. Great skater for his size at 6'6", 218. Again, a right shot defenseman, and he's going to just play a pile of minutes for this Czechia team and be one of, if not their go-to guy on the back end. Having a great season so far with Seattle, over a point per game, 16 points in 14 games, 1 assist in 4 games with Rochester in the AHL as well. That's nothing to scoff at. Again, a guy that we could see sooner rather than later in Buffalo if they choose to get rid of some money on that blue line that's pretty expensive right now and a couple of guys, including a former number 1 overall pick who has underperformed so far this year. That's why it's great that they have a guy like Mirka, absolute giant. He'll be terrific for Team Czechia.
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether brand new, casual, or hardcore, listen very carefully because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books to maximize their profits. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all of the top sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. Most importantly, all of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, it's simple. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful and profitable sports betting. So, if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand at the same time, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through our link in the description below, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. If you're planning on signing up for a new sportsbook anyways, you might as well use our link and support the boys. So, one more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. Yeah, that 2025 NHL draft, we talked about him pretty heavily because it was a bit weaker on the back end in terms of depth in the first round. Obviously, Matthew Schaefer is who he is, but we talked about Mirka because we thought that maybe he could sneak up and go higher in the draft because there's so few defense to pick in the first round between him and Jackson Smith and Keishon Aitchison. But I think Buffalo is pretty lucky that he crept all the way down the 9th, and they got a very well-rounded defenseman there that could, look really good on the back end for them. And he's certainly going to be very important for this Czechia team. Fits the identity very well. Like you mentioned before, Chad, you've talked about how a nation just molds these certain players or certain types of players. It's just monsters in Czechia. I don't know what they're feeding them, but they keep pumping it out. And he's going to be pretty important for them. I expect big minutes, 21 minutes a game out of Mirka.
Yeah,
totally.
I think Buffalo's got a good one here as long as he can maybe be a little more involved than one of the first overall picks that they have on their team currently, who's also pretty big and not particularly punishing, which is exactly how you described Mirka. So hopefully there are some differences there, Harper. Your favorite player on the back end who shall not be named.
That's right.
Okay, who are we going to next? Let's do Let's do Denmark.
Okay. Denmark.
Okay. I'm going with the 6'4" forward, William Bundgaard. He has played a couple seasons at the top level in Denmark. He's now moved on to Sweden, where he's playing in the U20 National. But most importantly, I'm taking him because he's a big reason why Denmark is in this tournament this year. He helped them win gold at both the U20s and the U18 Div 1A last year. He put up 6 goals and 4 assists in 4 games for the U18s, and then 2 goals and assists in the U20s, and then they gained promotion. So important guy for them last year, obviously going to continue and gain even more respect and confidence going into this tournament, and will be sort of the guy they look to lead the forward core at least. And he's large, he skates well, plays physical, and has a knack for the net, which is, just about everything that a team like Denmark could ask for in a forward in the World Juniors.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. This will be a guy who they rely on up front. It's nice to see Denmark back in the tournament here. Obviously, it sucks to be Kazakhstan, but that's how it works. But Denmark's back in it this year. a lot of good NHL players from Denmark, so it's nice to see them back. I think Bundsgaard is a good pick. I think, if we're being completely honest, there aren't very high expectations of this Danish team. So we're just going to have to see how they perform. And yeah, 6'4", 200-pound monster up front crashing the net, like that seems like a recipe for success, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think Bundsgaard's going to be so important for these guys. And their main goal in this tournament is to beat Latvia in the round robin, because between those two teams, I think they're whatever one goes to relegation is going to get relegated against Germany. Is just my gut feeling. But I mean, Latvia has been there for a long time, and they've continued to shock us and really shocked Canada last year too. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about this tournament. Really, anything can happen. We talked about it last episode where a goaltender could steal a game or two and cause a crazy upset. So yeah, we'll just have to see. Okay, moving on. The player that I'm going to be taking from Denmark is Mads Kongsback Kielvo. And I hope I pronounced that right. But if there are any Danish people listening, they're probably rolling and screaming about that. But yeah, this is the only drafted player on this team. So I thought I'd take the low-hanging fruit here. He's a fourth rounder to Florida in 2025. Of course, being the only drafted player on the team, this is a guy who is going to be relied on, especially offensively. The only thing that I thought was a bit interesting looking at this player's stats, I don't see any for this year. So I'm not sure if he's played a game or if he's healthy, if there's something going on there. But I just know that he's the only drafted player on this team. So I feel like we have to bring up his name.
Yeah.
Because if he does play, if he is healthy, this is going to be a guy who is relied on to produce offense as a 6'2", 195-pound left winger. So any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bit curious that he hasn't played, and I'm definitely interested to see how healthy he's going to be for the tournament. But I mean, you gotta look to your drafted players as guys that are going to lead the way for you. So, and they're going to need absolutely everything they can get for this tournament, or else, Norway's coming up next year and someone's got to go down.
Yeah, that's right. And just to kind of add on this, the lack of stats here, I'm not sure if he hasn't played because he's injured or whatever, but for the tournament last year in the Div 1A, we mentioned that they've been promoted and Kazakhstan's been relegated. He had 3 assists in 5 games. Wasn't a world beater by any stretch, but, was a contributor on that team. And in the J20, I think that's probably his most impactful experience in 2024-25. He had 29 points in 42 games and 8 and 6 in the playoffs that year. So was a member of an SHL team, played some SHL playoff games as well. But again, this is all last season. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on this year, but we'll just have to see if this guy's healthy and if he can be a contributor offensively. Again, being the only drafted player on this Danish team.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really have anything more to add about that player. I'll just go on to the player I'm looking at, and that's Tristan Peterson. Again, one of these bigger bodies up front for this Danish team. And, once we get to the Denmarks, the Latvias, the Norways of the world, just thinking about Michael Brandtzæg-Nygaard of the Detroit Red Wings there for a moment. You look at the players who are playing in North America, playing in Canada and the United States, and Peterson currently playing for the Penticton Vees in the WHL, 17 points in 31 games. Not bad numbers, honestly. So I look at him as one of the guys to watch up front for this Danish team. Again, nice to see a kid who is playing in North America on a team like this, and hopefully he can be an impact player for them up front.
Yeah, there's a couple guys playing Canada for this team, and like you said, I mean, they're very familiar with the style of play, the competition in this tournament because they're playing against these guys in the CHL, and that does go a long way, especially being comfortable in North America, not having to travel. There's just like the list goes on why that's a benefit for a team like Latvia. And I have read some good things about Peterson, and we're likely going to see him playing with Buntgard, and I hope that's a good partnership so that we look smart because I don't know much else about Denmark.
And I think that's fair, right? Given this team wasn't even in the tournament last year.
Yeah.
So, we're doing our best to identify players to watch, and that's what we've done here. Peterson, based on the brief scouting report that I've read on him, known as a defensive forward, so maybe he'll be a key penalty killer for this team. Also being 19, he'll be one of the guys who are relied on more than others, because as we've talked about, this is really a 19-year-olds tournament. So
yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good pick. So who do we have next?
Latvia.
There you go.
So a couple of teams left here to wrap up part 2, Group B. So we're almost at the end. Latvia and then Canada, but we'll start with Latvia, a team that we got a chance to look at again in Brockville, that exhibition game against Czechia. Lots of fun there, and a team that looked pretty good in Ottawa as well and upset the Canadians, of course, in a shootout.
So quickly, I just got to backtrack, and I know I'm taking us off the rails here for a second. There's something I wanted to bring up, and we're getting away from Denmark, and I didn't want to forget it. Kivi Harju, born in Denmark. How annoyed do you think they are?
Right.
Really?
Like, wouldn't that be nice to have a guy like that in this tournament? But I mean, obviously, he's a national of Finland. He's played every tournament for Finland, so he's always going to go that way and obviously have a better chance of winning. But that is something I want to mention. It just triggered my mind because I'm going to be picking a returning player for Latvia in Bruno Osmanis, who is playing in Sweden. So it just sparked me there. But he was second on the team in scoring at last year's tournament, despite missing 2 games. He had 3 assists and 3 goal and 3 assists in 3 games. Was a top 3 player for the U18s as well. Phenomenal in the U20 National to start this season, and now he's even getting some respectful numbers in the Tier 2 Swedish league, the Allsvenskan. So a lot of experience here at different various levels, as well as men's hockey now. So a guy I'm going to look to be leaned on at this tournament, especially a returning player and a guy who put some points up in very key games for them last year. I do remember him in this tournament with very good hands and being an absolute buzzsaw for them, kind of all over the ice, always in the play, hearing his name over and over and over again. So I expect any scoring going through Latvia to be from him or started by him.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to add on that one case. I did want to say on Kivi Harju, that's I must admit, all I was thinking about this whole time, because I was wondering if his dad went on a podcast and threatened to go to Denmark to play there, like Dane Hudson's dad. But of course, Kivi Harju wasn't cut from the Finnish team, so no need for that. But yeah, not much else to add on this player. Harp, what do you got?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Osmanis, I believe, was at Florida's development camp this year. I want to say that'd be a Google search for sure.
I
believe you. Sure.
I'm pretty. I'm
Makes
pretty
sense,
sure
they've
he
got
was.
Latvians.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was at their development camp. Anyway, a lot of familiar names on this roster. Osmanis is certainly one of them. I'm looking at all these names now, and it's like, oh my gosh, had to learn quickly how to pronounce all of these names when I was doing the PA for that exhibition game here in Brockville. But really impressed with Latvia last year. A lot of good players on that roster, and we're seeing a lot of them again. Osmanis, one of the guys up front that they'll certainly be counting on. So it's a great pick, and obviously, the Matekos of the world and guys like that last year that aren't on this team. But there's a lot of familiar names that are there. So Latvia, again, just like they did to Canada, upset them in a shootout. I could see this team, getting a couple of wins in this tournament, a couple of upsets for sure.
For sure. Why not?
Yep.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Okay. The player that I am going to be watching on this team is Alberts Smits. And the reason is because when I was doing my research and reading some articles on The Athletic, I came across an article written by Scott Wheeler and Corey Pronman of The Athletic, and they ranked Albert Smits as one of the more interesting players to watch. They said that he had the complete package of size, mobility. He'll be Latvia's top defenseman. He has 12 points in 29 games for Jokerit in the Liga. No longer the KHL, the Liga, Jokerit. And also eligible to be picked in the 2026 draft. And he's projected to go very high, at least within the top 20. I've seen him ranked as high as number 8. So again, similar to some other players we've talked about who are draft eligible, he will be one of the better players on this team, if not the best, and will be relied on from the back end. So Albert Smits is who I'm going with, guys.
Yeah, you swiped this guy out from underneath me. I wanted to bring him up, and then you texted, I'm going to bring up Albert Smits. And I was like, there's a little peek behind the curtain for you guys. But I wanted him. And it's because of his experience in La Liga and the fact that we're going to see a Latvian player potentially go top 10 in the draft. That's, I think, that's a big deal.
Very well,
especially a defenseman, good size, good, well-rounded game. But he is offensive. 12 points in 29 games, draft eligible in La Liga. That's pretty great for a defenseman, and puts up points kind of across the board, goals, assists. So a player I'm very curious about, and I'm definitely going to be watching.
For sure. And like I said, Pronman and Wheeler reiterated, just to reiterate what they said, that he will be their best defenseman. So that's interesting to hear, given he's a draft eligible player. So you always like hearing stuff like that. And very well could be a top 10 pick case. Like I said, the highest I've seen him ranked is number 8 by McKean's, as we were just looking at here. So that would be pretty special if he goes in the top 10, because that obviously doesn't happen very often. But yeah, definitely be interested to see what this guy can do at this tournament.
Absolutely. Player to watch for me on Team Latvia. Again, it's another familiar name from last year. One of their forwards who I think will be impactful for them up front, and that is Olivers Murnieks, playing for the QMJ for the QMJHL's St. John Sea Dogs, from Riga. Again, very talented, looking forward. Draft eligible, I believe, and in 2026, yes, looks like he could go, as high as early second round, according to Draft Prospects Hockey. 17-year-old, again, talented, looking forward, decent size, 6'1", 190, and another familiar face for Latvia up front. Not bad production either with St. John's in the Q, 13 points in 22 games. So Murnieks, again, one of those familiar names, and I think we'll have a good tournament for Latvia.
Yeah, familiar name because he was one of the guys passing to Mateko, and second on the team in points, tied with Osmanis. And someone had to pass the puck to the guy who had 5 goals in 5 games. So that was our guy's Harp. Aren't you proud?
That's right. Perfect.
There you go. And again, just to kind of wrap up, we've talked about it before, but North American experience, right? And I know a handful of the players on this team have that North American experience, but I just think it's so valuable for, a foreign player to have been playing in North America for a couple of years now. Won't have to do the travel, like you mentioned, Case. It'll just be another normal day for him. And I think that's important for a tournament like this when we're talking about kids still. It's something that's not, we don't talk about it enough, but all of the travel, all of the pressure, everything that goes into this tournament. Like these are kids. So if you can eliminate any one of those factors, I think it's a benefit. So
just another note too, look how many of these guys are from Riga as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys just grew up together by the looks of it, which is really great as well. And, you know, they might all be in different leagues or whatever, but all coming from the same place, that's a big deal as well for a country like Latvia.
Yeah, I hate to break it to your heart, but there's 1.8 million people in Latvia, and it's not a very big country, so they've got to be from somewhere. They might as well be from the capital of the country.
Yes. No, that's great. Okay, wrapping it up with, of course, none other than Team Canada. Obviously, last year was just a massive disappointment, and it was a fifth place finish. Went to a couple of games in Ottawa, and I mean, it was just a disaster. Maybe the first year that we've seen just total uproar around the roster selection, but it's rightfully so, given the results that they had. I think the coaching was terrible as well. I mean, how many morning skates got canceled during last year's tournament in Ottawa as well? And you look at that 2024 draft, and I think it's 4 of the first 7 picks, guys that weren't even on that team. I mean, Beckett Seneca at 3rd overall, like he wasn't even selected. Carter Yakimchuk, I mean, what a missed marketing opportunity I thought there. He wasn't on this team. Now, it's a year later. A lot can change. I think Canada has learned their lesson here. This is a very good-looking team with a lot of guys that should be there. Obviously, there's going to be some tough cuts made, like, you know, the O'Briens and the Van Ackers of the world. But I mean, even though those guys are ripping it up in the Ontario League, there's still plenty here for them to be a much better team. I can't really look at this roster and think like, oh my gosh, like how are they missing this guy or that guy? It's a pretty solid looking team, and goaltending might be a real strength for them. So
I cannot remember the last time I looked at Canada's team and said, wow, I trust every single one of those guys in the net. Like,
that's true.
Exactly.
I don't remember
that's
that.
True. So let's get into it, boys. Hoping for, and I think will be, a much better year for Team Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I just quickly want to touch on the goaltending, and that Carter George was a top 3 player of the team last year. And then you have Regensbergen, who was a first round pick. You have Ivankovic, who was on the team when he was 16 and is a second round pick. So just a lot of trust in that back end. But then again, on top of that, they picked their best defenders available. So that's just a weird formula, I guess. But I'm kind of excited this year. Last year we had a lot of questions, and it's led me to kind of why I picked my pick. There's so many great players on this team that I want to talk about. And I think multiple with redemption arcs, but I am going to go with Michael Misa. And we talked about him last year, and it was mind-boggling that they didn't pick him for the team especially after we watched a disappointing tournament. Kind of everyone was bringing up Michael Misa, as well as, you know, multiple guys on the back end. But we were all up in arms, and it's because at the time he was the CHL's leading scorer as a draft eligible player, coming off the year before winning the Memorial Cup when he had 11 points in 17 games as a 16-year-old. So obviously he had the pedigree coming into this. And then let me read some accolades off for you since being snubbed by the team. CHL's top scorer, OHL most outstanding player, OHL's most points, OHL Scholastic Player of the Year, drafted 2nd overall, and lastly, started this season in the NHL for 7 games before being sent down to the AHL. So it's just crazy that this guy was not on the team last year. I think he's going to be a main play driver between him and Kevin McKenna. There's a top 6 forming here that I really like. Guys like Brady Martin, McKenna, Misa, Martone. It's looking very good, very strong. Lots of scoring and then some role guys to fill in behind. But I mean, Misa is as dynamic of a player as it gets. He's one of the best skaters in the tournament. Maybe McKenna, the only guy who skates better than him. Incredible playmaking mind. I'm expected him to put up huge numbers in this tournament and show that he should have been taken last year. My prediction here is that he's going to have a slow start against Czechia, just with all the pressure, and then he's going to fill the net on Saturday against Latvia and then have a tournament to remember afterwards.
I like that. So crazy that this guy wasn't picked. He had 134 points in 65 games last year. Like, in all of the accolades. Yeah, and all of the accolades that you listed off as a draft eligible player. Goes second overall, starts in the NHL. Like, what a missed opportunity. And the team finished 5th. Like, what a joke. But I think, Harp, you've mentioned it, I think they're in a better position this year. You don't look at that forward group and think to yourself, oh boy, like they're bringing this guy and not, like Jake O'Brien is a guy like, okay, he has some really good numbers playing for that loaded Bulldogs team, but I don't know. Pretty good forward group. So I think Misa Case might be the best player in the tournament this year, if I'm being honest, or at least one of. And going back to that article written by Wheeler and Pronman in The Athletic, they ranked Michael Misa as the number 1 prospect in this tournament. So I tend to agree with both of those guys, not on everything, but they know their prospects. And yeah, if I was a betting man, I would be putting some money down on Michael Misa to lead the tournament in points because he's dynamic. He has NHL experience. He's just, he's an incredible player, and he has a redemption arc forming here, like you said, because he didn't get picked last year. So I think Misa is going to go crazy this year, and I don't think anyone deserves it more than him.
Like I mentioned right off the top, Canada has an opportunity to really redeem themselves here. And on paper, everything looks good. By the way, too, I got to shout out whoever was doing the OHL's social media last year around the time that Canada was, losing and on their way out of the tournament. Just highlights of the night from guys that weren't picked for that team.
Yes,
it was
true.
Filled with highlights of Michael Misa, Beckett Seneca, Zane Parekh, and on and on and on. So, but look, it was deserving. However, a year later, turn the page. He deserves to be on this team, and he is, and I think he'll be fantastic.
Beckett Seneca is another one too. It's like, look at his production in the NHL this year.
I know.
Like it's insane. But then again, like you have to look at this team this year and think, okay, I think they've righted the ship. Like, look at the players on this team who have NHL experience. It's pretty impressive. Like Michael Misa, Jet Luchenko,
Braden Coots. That's right. Brady Martin was playing first line center for the Nashville Predators for a couple weeks.
Zane Parekh, I believe, has been in a couple games.
Harrison Brunick.
Yeah, that's right.
The South African.
That's right.
As well. Yes.
So it's very impressive. Like this team top to bottom. I can't remember a time where they've had this many players who have actually played games in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like it's very impressive.
No, exactly. Doesn't hurt that they're being coached by Dale Hunter too, from the elite organization that is the London Knights, and coming off of a Memorial Cup victory. I'd say that's a step up from Dave Cameron.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, couple more players left, and then we can wrap up this episode here. Guys, I'm going to go with the obvious one here. Well, maybe not so obvious because there's so many good players on this team, but I'm going to go with the projected number 1 overall pick for this year's NHL entry draft, and that's Gavin McKenna. I say projected and not consolidated or lock because, as we've talked about, it's become a bit of a 3-horse race. And one of the players in that 3-horse race is also on his team in Keaton Verhoff. So you've got two players here, and I guess I'll kind of talk about them in tandem. You've got two players in Veerhoff and McKenna who aren't necessarily going to be competing, but they're both going to want to show up really well on the biggest stage, that is the World Juniors. Obviously very different, play different positions, but both are going to make their push for to be picked first overall. Again, if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking it's going to be McKenna, maybe Stenberg, but Veerhoff is definitely there. Like, he's in the conversation now, which is something that nobody was saying a year ago. So I think McKenna has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's going to have to come to this tournament and remind everybody why he's been ranked number one for so long amongst his peers. And you don't have to look any further than his production to know why he's just an incredibly special player. Like, just look at some of this production, guys. Like 129 points in 56 games last year for the Medicine Hat Tigers in the WHL. However, as you see below that, at Penn State, just 18 points in 16 games in the NCAA as a rookie. And now that's nothing to scoff at, but it's a far cry. It's a far cry from almost 3 points a game in the WHL. And there have been rumblings, and there's a reason that it's now a conversation and that he's not just an absolute lock. There's been rumblings that, you know, his production's down and teams are getting a bit concerned about it. So I think he has a lot to prove this tournament. He wants to put his name back into the solidified number one conversation rather than having it be a 3-horse or a 2-horse race. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Gavin McKenna is going to do at this tournament, because he's been a phenom for so long and he finally has something to prove amongst his peers.
I think that he is going to be must-watch TV. If he's on the ice, a goal can happen at any chance. And just look at the pre-tournament games. That game against Sweden, he was the catalyst on both goals. And it's going to be that way with him. Every single time he's on the ice, something can happen. He had a disappointing season last year, and we've seen that before when guys come up in their 16-year-old tournaments, guys like Byfield and Lafreniere. Mm-hmm. I don't know, the list could go on probably, but they just don't blow up the way everyone expects. And then the year after, here they are. They show up, they put up numbers. And I think McKenna is going to be that case. And I think this tournament's going to be the catalyst that pushes him forward for the rest of the season. He's already putting up better numbers in the NCAA recently. And I think that it's going to continue in that way. And he's still going to be the first overall pick. It's going to be fun to talk about the other two guys and you know, debate about it. But at the end of the day, it's got to be McKenna. And this tournament's going to show why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to think the same way, Case, in that regard when it comes to Gavin McKenna. Last year, he was obviously younger, a little more sheltered. He didn't really play a ton. You weren't expecting a ton from him last year. Well, this year, you are. He hasn't stepped in right away and dominated like we would expect a projected number one overall pick to do in his draft year at the NCAA level. But still, over a point per game, that's pretty good. You're playing against older guys at the college level, and I think he's going to have a terrific tournament as well. And that line of McKenna, Hage, and Martin that we've seen so far in pre-tournament action, they look absolutely fantastic. So if I'm Dale Hunter, I'm not touching that at all. And I think McKenna is going to have a huge tournament as well. I'm with you guys there.
You know what my favorite part about this kid is? Goes to Penn State, plays ASU for the first time, ices the game with a goal, forks down to the crowd. That was cool. That shows that, you know, he's a confident player. Of course he is. He had 150 points in the dub last year. Like, confident player. I'd like to see some of that at this tournament from Gavin McKenna.
Connor Bedard's cousin as well.
That is right.
Yeah.
That is true.
And about Veerhoff for a second, like, the guy is a man-child for Christ's sake. Like, he'd be the second man-child on this team if a guy like Ethan Belchez was on Team Canada. But my God, Veerhoff in his draft eligible year, 6'4", 212
Yeah.
already. Are you kidding me? Bob Stauffer, who covers the Edmonton Oilers, he is very high on Verhoff and says that he might be the best defenseman to come out of Western Canada in the last 25, 30 years. That's saying a lot. That's some very lofty expectations for a young guy, but this guy just looks like an absolute beast, man, and really looking forward to seeing him on the back end for Canada.
Does Cale Makar not count? He played in the BCHL, Western Canada.
Yes, that is true. But Verhoff, I do think he has the potential to be like one of the next great Canadian defensemen for sure.
Okay.
All right, my player to watch on Team Canada, of course, like there's so many different directions that you can go with this, and we've kind of talked about, a few of the biggest names already, but I'm going to go with kind of an under the radar guy here, and that's TJ Ginla. Obviously, the Utah Mammoth are well represented on this team with 3 first rounders, Denoye, Ginla, and Cole Baudouin, but have to look at TJ Ginla. You look at who his father is in Jerome and what kind of player he was, and Tej isn't too far off. He can kind of do a bit of everything. He's got a terrific shot. He can hit. He can score. He can make plays. Kind of one of those Swiss Army knife kind of guys. And obviously comes from a great hockey family, a terrific prospect. Utah had offers to move that pick in 2024, and they said, no way. We want TJ Ginla. And again, he's one of the guys I look at and I say, yeah, it makes sense that he's on this team. I think he's just going to be one of those solid, dependable, two-way guys on this team, and they certainly have a few. But Ginla, for me, just a Swiss Army knife and maybe someone who could move up their lineup at some point. So I'll be keeping my eyes on Ginla. Maybe a guy that is not getting a whole lot of oxygen right now when you look at this roster.
That Swiss coach from that famous interview somewhere right now is listening to this and smashing his head on the table as Harp says, a guy under the radar, 6 overall pick, TJ Ginla. It's like when they would just love to have a guy like that on their team as their best player by a long shot.
Yeah.
But I definitely see what you're saying, Harp. Like there's 6 other forwards that come to mind before I think of TJ Ginla at least.
Yeah.
And I can see late on in the tournament it being a guy who they gain a lot of trust in and ends up playing in some big moments later on. So I can totally see it there. Very well-rounded player. And again, we talk about pedigree coming from your family. It doesn't get much better than Jarome Iginla. So I like this. I like that he was picked for the team this year. He's had some injury problems in the past seasons, and I just love to have a good moment for TJ Ginla here, other than, getting drafted 6 overall is pretty sweet. But
yeah, for sure. By all accounts, a guy who does the little things right, not afraid to go into the corner, despite the fact that he's not exactly the biggest guy. He's not small either, but he's not a bruiser out there, but not afraid. He's tenacious. He'll initiate contact. He'll dig pucks out, and he does the little things right. So that's exactly the type of player you would expect to be a Swiss Army knife on this team, like you've mentioned, Harp. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he fits into the lineup and how that looks. Just looking at this team, though, there are so many good players. Like I'm looking at the back end, and you've got Zane Parekh there, and that'll be a bit of a redemption arc for him this year as well. Like,
yeah.
Obviously not making the team last year, and since then he's played in NHL games. So that's a big one for me. I think he'll have a good tournament. Ben Danford, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. He is the Maple Leafs' top prospect right now, which isn't exactly saying much because I think he projects to be, maybe a 4 at best. But interested to see how he looks compared to his peers because by all accounts, he's a pretty good player in the OHL. So yeah, a lot of names here that are very interesting. And of course, we'll be watching Canada closer than anybody. but it's going to be a great tournament, boys. It can't be worse than it was last year. So that's something to look forward to.
There are some bruisers on this team too, which is what I like. Aitchison, obviously. I mean, how many highlights have we seen of him just, doing a Scott Stevens like hit on somebody in the OHL, and Brady Martin too. He's, again, it's great that he's playing with a guy like McKenna because he can create space for a talented guy like that.
Stay out of the penalty box, Aitchison. Lay those big hits. But remember that this tournament, they got hammered with penalties last year. Every hit is going to be a 5-minute major instantly so they can review it and decide if it was even a penalty or not. What? So just stay out of the penalty box, Canada.
Yeah. For Aitchison, I think this is the same description that I read on last year's podcast. Loves nothing more than seeing attackers approach with their head down. Big open ice hits. He hunts them. Connecting with them every chance he gets. This guy's got to stay out of the box for sure.
Yeah.
But what a player. What a player. Old school hockey. Love it.
There's another good defenseman for the Islanders.
That's right.
For sure.
Okay.
I think that does it.
That does.
Hey, guys. All right. Yep. Well, there we have it. Parts 1 and 2, Groups A and B, players to watch at the upcoming 2026 World Junior Hockey Championships. Again, it all starts Boxing Day. Canada's opening game is against Czechia. 8:30 Eastern is puck drop for that one from Minneapolis. Looking forward to it. I mean, it is a staple over the holidays. We love and so enjoy doing these preview shows for the tournaments every year. Get lots of great feedback. So thank you. Thank you for the support this year. 2025 has been great. Looking forward to the new year. So a Merry Christmas to everybody. Enjoy the World Juniors. Enjoy time with your friends and family over the holidays, and a Happy New Year as well. We'll chat with you again in 2026. Take care.